Happy Monday. Welcome in. Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we have the latest Seattle Seahawks news and rumors surrounding the NFL Draft, which is coming up in just over a week. We will talk about Jalen Carter today, also have a draft sleeper to watch, and could the Seahawks be trading down at 5 or 20, specifically 20? We will examine all of that and more coming up in just a few moments from right now. Before we do, this week we are doing another sub-battle with the Niners channel, our division rivals, and the Cowboys report because everybody hates the Cowboys. So here's what I need you to do, Seahawk fans. I need you to subscribe to the channel because we want to really take it to these two teams and their channels as well. So subscribe now for free today. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment, and you're going to get the latest news and rumors. We're also doing our live shows on Wednesdays as well. We are covering this team like no one else is, and when it comes draft time, we're going to get pretty crazy around here. So go ahead and subscribe now. You'll be glad you did. Best part about it all, it's free. So go ahead and subscribe, turn on notifications. We'll get started with today's show. Done deal? Well, according to Peter King of Football Morning in America from NBC Sports, he's reporting that many teams expect Seattle to draft Georgia defensive tackle Jalen Carter with the number 5 overall pick, that everything seems to be trending that direction for Carter to end up in Seattle. And so with that certainly leaves some questions about, is it going to happen or not? Is this all smoke, or is this the real deal here for Seattle to go with Jalen Carter here? Here's more from Peter King. An increasing number of people around the league think Jalen Carter has done enough in his visits to not sink like a stone on draft night. It's become almost a cliche how many team officials think the Seahawks will take Carter with the 5th overall pick. And there's one point in there in particular that stands out to me, what Peter King says here, that the visits seem like that they've gone pretty well. Seattle, one of the teams that's visited him, that occurred last week, and there have been others. And of the rumblings of sorts within the last couple of days of these visits that have gone on, at least at this time, at the time of this recording, we have not heard of anything that has gone bad or wrong at these visits that would hurt Jalen Carter to see his stock go down. As Peter King talks about, there's nothing that we've seen to indicate that. And that's kind of the last box to check, right? We were saying, what did we tell you last week, that if the visit with the Seahawks went well, everything was kind of turning towards that direction for Seattle to take him at 5. Now, you look at the situation. He's projected by most mock drafts, whether it's ESPN or Pro Football Focus or whoever, almost everybody, the consensus is that Seattle will take Jalen Carter at 5 right now. He did have the misdemeanor reckless driving charge, but he won't be facing jail time. And he's not meeting with teams outside the top 10 of the draft meetings he's done so far to this point. He believes he's going to be a top 10 pick, and others seem to think so as well. So let's ask you now, is it a done deal? Is Jalen Carter headed to the Seattle Seahawks with that number 5 pick? Are we just playing the waiting game at this point? Or is there still some other factors involved here? Could the Seahawks surprise us? Could there be a trade? What say you? What do you think? Is this a done deal or not? Let me know in the comments section what you think. Y for yes, in for no. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. Y for yes, in for no, if you believe this is a done deal or not for Seattle to take Jalen Carter at 5 or not. Trading down? Yes. That is a very strong possibility, according to CBS Sports, naming the Seahawks as one of the most likely teams to trade down in this draft. Now, you may be thinking, didn't we just talk about the number 5 pick being a done deal? Well, the 5, I think, is not the big area of focus here. More so the 20 seems to be the pick that's talked about as being likely to trade down of sorts. This is what CBS Sports had to say in this scenario for the Seahawks here. At number 20, John Schneider will have some options, but I'm also keeping an eye at number 5 overall. Sure, the top 4 quarterbacks could be off the board at this point, but what if they aren't? One quarterback-needy team could be aggressive and contact Seattle. With 10 total picks, I think the Seahawks could be candidates to trade up or down later this month. You look at the Seahawks draft picks, where things stand. They hold the number 5 pick, and then you got that 20 pick. But don't forget about 37 as well. And 37 is where things get interesting of sorts, because if you're the Seahawks, let's say that you want to shift down from 20, then maybe you can turn 37 into a first-round pick of sorts. There's some flexibility that you have here. The Seahawks have a lot of options, a lot of variables that they could do when it comes to this draft of some of the moves that they can make, the flexibility here depending on how the board may go of what the Seahawks could do with these potential trade options. It's like onions, right? There's layers. What was it that Shrek said? Something about the onions having layers? That's what the Seahawks have with their draft picks, is that they have a few different layers to their disposal to try to figure out when it comes to this draft as they head into the draft coming up next Thursday night. Speaking of the draft, more on this and the trade down scenarios here in just a second. Before we do, though, draft hats are on sale now. You can still get yours in time for the draft next week. And we have the flat bill version. We have the baseball cap style. We have it in blue. We have it in white as well. Whatever you are feeling, we have plenty of Seahawks draft hats just for you. And whether you're going to a draft party or you're just hanging out at home, whatever it may be, now's your chance to get the same exact draft hats that future members of the Seattle Seahawks are going to be wearing on draft night. And so when you're hanging out with your buddies and you're talking about the draft, whatever it may be, you can show up and say, hey, I got the hat that maybe Jalen Carter is going to be wearing, or some of these other guys that we've been talking about here. This is a pretty cool deal, so you can stand out among the rest of the crowd and represent your favorite team at the same time. What are you waiting for? Get yours today. Chatsports.com/Seahawks Draft to get a draft hat on sale now while supplies last for a limited time. Chatsports.com/Seahawks Draft. Now, here's what I think is a big key when it comes to the draft and the potential possibility of trading down. You look at the first tier of players in this draft, those top 10 caliber players. That's the elite group, right? But then you get into the next tier. When we're looking at picks 11 to about 45 or 50, I don't think that there's a huge gap there in that next tier of talent. I think that is a big key in all this when it comes to trading down, especially at that number 20 pick, is that the player that you get, let's just throw a number out there, let's say 28 as opposed to 20, I don't think is going to have a significant drop-off compared talent-wise, if any at all, of the players that are available there. So that makes things more intriguing for a potential trade-down scenario if you're the Seattle Seahawks, especially with that 20th pick we've talked about. I think whatever you need to do, Seattle would prefer to stay at 5 unless you get some type of offer you just can't refuse and the quarterbacks, get a little wonky when it comes to this draft. But when it comes to 20, that's when I'm really interested in a potential trade-down situation there. Bill Barnwell of ESPN talked about this possibility within the last couple of weeks, and I thought Barnwell made an interesting point here. The Seahawks don't need receivers and should be trying to solicit interest from teams below them. We've seen them be comfortable moving down to the bottom of the first round and even to the top of the second round in this range. So I'm not sure they typically see much difference between the players in the 20s and the ones available 10 or 15 picks later. So Bill agrees with what I'm saying here. The receiver element, I think you need receivers, but not necessarily priority right away. Obviously, you need a number 3 receiver, but you don't have to do that right away. More on that potentially coming up later in the show of who we'll talk about next. But I want to know this. Should the Seahawks trade down from the number 20 overall pick? What say you? Tell me in the comment section. Type T for trade. Type S for stay. What do you think about that 20th selection? Should Seattle trade down or not? Tell me in the comment section. T for trade. S for stay. What are you feeling the Seahawks should do with that pick? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, final note before we wrap up today's show. Let's tell you about Ronnie Bell now. Could he be a potential late-round steal, a draft sleeper to watch? The Seahawks met with Bell over the weekend at his pro day at the University of Michigan, and he is a guy that's starting to garner some attention, some interest out there of being kind of an off-the-radar player of some sorts that could be available and that does multiple things. The scouting report from Lance Erline. Let's tell you what Lance had to say here about Ronnie Bell. The tape shows some incredible near catches at challenging angles. So his ball skills are a strength. He can catch what is thrown to him, but might need to do it against zone or with help from scheme, as he potentially lacks the separation traits to get open consistently on the next level. Now, if you're the Seahawks and you have all these picks here, you're trying to find those late round sleepers, those flyers that, you know, could be, what do we refer to it as? The risk versus reward factor, low risk, high reward potential. That's what I look at with Ronnie Bell. I understand that he had the ACL injury in college and he missed some time and all that, but this is not a guy that's going to be taken day one or probably even day two for that matter. To me, this sounds intriguing of taking that flyer on to see what you could get out of Ronnie Bell. Third team All Big Ten last year, had a decent bounce back year off the ACL injury. And I know the ACL injury is going to scare some folks, but he still played in 47 games in 5 seasons. And you talk about the versatility that Ronnie Bell brings to the table. Here's a guy that has been used as a wideout. He's been used as a rusher before as well. They've put him in the run game there. And he's also been in punt coverage as well as a return man. So you're looking at a guy that can do multiple things and bring that to this Seahawks team potentially. The career stats on Ronnie Bell as a receiver: 9 touchdowns, near 16 yards of reception, over 2,200 yards, and 145 catches. Watch out. Ronnie Bell could be a guy that John Schneider and company have their eyes on later, already with the draft visit and everything there at the Combine, or at the Pro Day, rather. To me, I'm very intrigued if Ronnie Bell is going to be one they look at. So, knowing what we know about Ronnie Bell at this point, and this being a sleeper pick, what say you? Should the Seahawks draft Ronnie Bell or not? What do you think about that possibility? Tell me in the comment section. Type D for draft, type P for pass. Let me know what you think. D for draft, P for pass. Follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live, talking about your Seattle Seahawks there. And I'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today. Thanks for joining us.